We all have a story to tell. Hi, it's me, Chris George. Or in fact, maybe we all want a story told to us. There are so many campaign games out there, and you don't have enough time. I know you don't. So that's why you're here, to find out the one campaign game that makes it all worth the while. The one campaign game that people actually get to the table. The one campaign game that people will crown the best campaign game of all time. We have been having a war. There's been a war in the shadows that you knew not of. Unless, of course, you were part of the Room and Board Patreon, and then you knew of this war with these games passing by our screen right now. The Room and Board Deathmatch, which you come to for the OG Deathmatch with all the great graphics. I know, there's one of them. And that's all you're getting. All throughout the month of May, members of the Room and Board community have been voting on which is the best campaign game of all time. And we are going to reveal the results to you now. And what's more, there was a secret rule happening that the Room and Board patrons knew not of as well. No one knew not of it, except for me. I knew of not it. There's always a random rule that happens, and for this one, I decided to assign it to the game that these members have played through the most of completed campaigns that have happened, because I think that's a really relevant statistic in campaign games. People get through, even for me, I'm halfway through Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Will I ever finish the campaign? I don't know. Probably. I would like to think so. Have I? No. And that happens, right? We get these games and we never actually finish them. We never see them to completion. And it's nice seeing something to completion. It feels good to see something fully to completion. And I think it's relevant statistics. So I was tracking how many people have actually finished these campaigns and how many campaigns have finished. And I'm going to tell you that as we go through as well. And they got extra votes in certain cases to push the game that will actually get off the shelf, that will get played more than once, that will get finished, and push those games to the top, because then maybe if you get them, you might finish them as well. So let's get into it. Let's get into the matchup. We're starting off with this. We have Kinfire Chronicles Night's Fall taking on the Lord of the Rings, The Journeys in Middle-earth, the 2029 campaign versus the 2023 campaign game. Campaign games have really sort of taken off since Seventh Continent, which is not in the bracket or ever will be in the bracket, or maybe it will be. I don't know. We've got some wild write-in votes that are happening. But Gloomhaven and Seventh Continent, they sort of back in 2015, and Pandemic Legacy Season 1, they really set forth this idea of tons of campaign games with hours and hours and hours of story. And these are the ones that we came up with for the list, but you'll see a lot of games within the past 10 years. And you'll also see a lot of games that were in a lot of previous death matches that did quite well because people really like their campaign games over on the Room and Board Discord. Maybe because I'm a storyteller, as you can tell by my completely energetic personality, that's not tamped down in any way, shape, or form. I know you have to have your content, even if it's the most boring and dry, monotonous content ever, due to energy levels, right? That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. I've heard that's what I should do. What I like out of these is that both of these were completed. Some of them hadn't yet been completed, but both of these were completed. Lord of the Rings, some people have competed like 5 different campaigns with different people, so this one definitely got the extra votes if they were primed for them. But people completed Kinfire as well. They said it's a good mix of light adventure mechanisms leading up to a tactical boss battle. So you have that light adventuring experience, and also the campaign chains everything well together, including the outcomes of battles and decisions, and having those ripple effects happen down throughout the rest of the game. Some people were voting for Kinfire because they liked the gameplay more. Some people found Lord of the Rings incredibly annoying, they said. Lots of little side things to tempt you, and you lose hard if you go for them, whereas Kinfire Chronicles was a total blast. However, we had somebody in the Discord also whose favorite game of all time is Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth. The campaign only lasts for 12 to 15 sessions, making it easy to finish. And because of the app-driven experience, the app takes on a lot of the overhead. The app deals with randomizing events and encounters, dealing with some of the bookkeeping that you otherwise would have to do yourself, which is always nice. And dealing with the maps, generating the maps in a random way. Other people said that Kinfire isn't the most novel, or the story isn't the most novel original, but it kept me engaged for most of it, didn't overstay its welcome. I'm amazed at how much legwork they were able to get from some of the cards and standees, both from a story and a mechanics perspectives. There are some samey sections, mechanisms, though mainly with side quests. The story quests, especially those near the end, are neat twists, unknown mechanics. Biggest gripe I have in the game is the number of cards sitting around as a market, memory, or possible upgrade side upgrade. And there's note that there's a bunch of people who are online who would make binders for the cards, and so card management is a little bit annoying in Kinfire Chronicles if you're thinking about getting it, and so kind of explodes out ever and doesn't have that streamlined appeal like Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. But it seemed like for the most part that most people were pretty favorable on both of these games. But even with the temptation of a giveaway, somebody in the Discord wanted to sway the votes and said, hey, if it at least makes the semifinals, they'll give away a full copy of Kinfire's Chronicles. Oh, sorry, Kinfire Delve. That's where the difference happened. A Kinfire Delve giveaway. Even that wasn't enough, and it's Lord of the Rings Journeys into Middle-earth, which moves forward in a 18-13 vote. I'm going to try to talk mostly about what the community has been saying for these, about the things that stand out, because essentially, as we move on to our next one, Eila and Something Shiny, taking on Agemonia, a lot of these campaign games will naturally feel the same, right? There's going to be an exploration phase, there's going to be a battle phase, there's going to be stat checks, there's going to be overarching stories, and unless you get too far into the weeds, it's hard to evaluate, yeah, this story was good, this story was bad, what is the difference in these mechanisms, especially when we're giving these high-level overviews. All of the high-level overviews are going to be sounding the same. Although Eila kind of stands a little bit apart because it is a solo campaign. It's a solo game. It's only for one player. You're a rabbit that's leaving your home and getting into doing your taxes. And although it looks like a children's game, and you could play it with your child, it's for one player, but again, it's just one character that you're controlling. You can talk about the decisions with your child. I know that a lot of people mentioned that they did the same thing, especially with these plushes. There are some mature themes in it and deals with that idea of loss and depression and a lot of really sort of deep, darker themes that pop up that you don't expect from a cheerful looking game that has a plushie and Eila and all these different adventures. Agemonia was funding around the same time as Arydia, which is also on this list. Agemonia deals again with, I know I said I wasn't going to do a high-level overview, but then you have these action chips, these stamina chips, which are your action points. That's the main difference here, is you explore these maps and interact with story points and decide, are you going to skip going into that room and just keep on running towards the ending? If there's a flood rising, do you have enough time, etc.? And this one is close. This is a close vote. The talking points for Eila is that each level has a unique central mechanic, and so it keeps things changed up over time. And this is nice. It says, one of my patrons says, Hillary says, it's a nice game to play with a kid because choosing whether to help someone or push them around will put unseen cards in your deck that might affect you later in the game, and you guys get to pick a daily self-care habit, like reading to increase your knowledge tokens, or singing to get rid of fear, and that just sounds like so delightful and so charming to play with a kid and to see those sorts of themes through a child's eyes as well. And plus, the art is really adorable, which I agree with. And people, again, were talking about how in Agemonia, how they really like the stamina mechanic because it makes you not just balance stamina or health independently. It makes healing and damage mitigation a much larger part of the puzzle, which sounds interesting as well. So this one was close, but it ended up falling. It was tied 12-12, and so it ended up falling between which campaigns have been played the most. And Eila and Something Shiny had been completed by multiple people, and Agemonia has only been completed about a third of someone. And so I know this rule does skew towards shorter campaigns because you're more likely to complete shorter campaigns, but that's also something you should consider. When you're picking up a book or you're watching a movie, how often do you watch a 4-hour movie? You're like, I probably will fall asleep. I'm going to watch a 2-hour movie instead, right? And is playing half of a campaign enough warrant purchasing it if you're never going to finish it? I like finishing things, so I never want to leave things unfinished because then it just feels like something on my to-do list on my shelf. And so that's why I put this as the rule. And so it's Eila and Something Shiny that moves forward in a 17-13 vote. This is definitely going to be the longest one yet, but I feel like there's a lot to talk about here in terms of the campaigns. And again, it'll get quicker as we go through. The next one we have Middara versus Mechs versus Minions. Middara won our best of 2024 or our Champion of Champions deathmatch. Some bribery was involved. You know, we did a giveaway in our Patreon, which there are giveaways in there that are happening all the time just amongst our community, which is really cool and so very fun to watch and very fun to be a part of. If you want to jump into the Discord, if you're a member of Patreon and you're not in the Discord, jump in the Discord because members of the community like to give things away. But Middara is one of those games that I saw early on, like even before I started doing YouTube, and thought this looked wildly impressive, like a JRPG game, an amazing style of game, so cool, so many minis. I was like, what is this amazing thing? It was one of the first campaign games that I ever saw, and I never ended up pulling the trigger again because, you know, I'm cheap. Or mindful of price, rather. But it essentially is, again, another choose your own adventure style miniatures board game. And so there wasn't a lot talking about Middara because we've talked about it a lot in the Discord. I always like to go and check the reviews on here. The gameplay is fine, but has mechanically inefficient. You have a lot of rule complexity to create relatively simple output variant. Like the complex die type die upgrade damage upgrade would be replaced by roll 2d6. I'm exaggerating. Yuck. Because in the end, it's effectively a number go up manager. Oh, fair enough. Yeah. I'd rather get a sword +1 instead of upgrading a white to an orange die to still, on average, roll 0.5 dice faces better. World was interesting. I was engaged in the story. Loved the character building and the leveling. I'm not as familiar with Mechs vs. Minions. The only thing I really know about it is that it is cooperative programming and that it deals with that programming aspect and that it was a really great value when it first came out. People say it works great with kids, so that's nice for Mechs vs. Minions. Super high quality, best board game production. Yeah, people always just talking about the board game production versus the campaign itself. I've always thought of this as I think it's scenario-based campaign, and I think there's only 12 or something in there. But yeah, it didn't get the votes. It's Middara that moves forward in a 21-8 vote. So we're moving along to one that I have played, Betrayal Legacy, taking on Tidal Blades 2, Rise of the Unfolders. Tidal Blades 2 won our best of 2024 deathmatch that we had in January, but it's back here now. Betrayal Legacy is another one of those things where I got halfway through and then we just never finished it. But I like it a lot. I think it is the optimal way to play Betrayal at House on the Hill. Now, do I think it is the best campaign game? I don't. But if you're looking for Betrayal at House on the Hill, get Betrayal Legacy, for sure. Because I find that they have less variance in terms of the scenarios that you're going to encounter as you make your way through these various scenarios as the house evolves. The fun of the Betrayal Legacy campaign are the legacy elements. It's the rooms that have changed that you remember as to who's been murdered in there over time. It is the items that you pick up over and over again that slowly change as you go through the different scenarios. And I think that's where the game really shines, not in terms of it being a campaign, but being sort of a true legacy experience. For me, campaign, I want to go on an adventure, I want to go on a story, and I guess this does give that, but it is the changing elements of Betrayal at House on the Hill that I find to be very intriguing and a good addition to the Betrayal system, if you're interested. Tidal Blade 2, a lot of people love. We've had giveaways happen in the Discord for this game as well. One of the core mechanisms of this game that makes a difference is this grid system. You're placing cards on this grid system, and then you can activate like a row or a column. And so juggling that and what things you cover and what things you expose and pre-planning your turns in that way as you jump around the map in a battle-y skirmish style game is kind of the gimmick here. And it's the thing that is resonating with people as it moves forward in a pretty dominant 27-6 vote. Next up, we've got Sleeping Gods and Sleeping Gods 2, Distant Skies, taking on Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and Pandemic Legacy Season 2 and Pandemic Legacy Season 0. I wanted to be able to combine all of these, but I only wanted one to emerge victorious. I didn't want the whole matchup to be dominated by like, okay, now it's Frosthaven and Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Same with Pandemic Legacy Season 1, 2, and 3. they get one chance, right? Or 1, 2, and 0. They get one chance to stand out. And so this just happened in the randomization of it. We have Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies, taking on Pandemic Legacy Season 1, 2, and 0 in this one bracket. But it makes sense because they are all intertwined. They are all sort of talked about each other in the same way. And we're going to find out what people prefer out of all of them. I was surprised. I mean, I guess I had heard from the Shut Up and Sit Down review that Season 0 is the best season, but more votes ended up towards Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Again, this is one that I have played half of and really enjoy and think it's awesome what's happening. The map will change as you go through, right? It was such a fun, dynamic experience to play with people, and such a great, again, the best way to play Pandemic. And there's a reason why it is still number 2 overall. Oh, right, because Gloomhaven dropped down to 4 and Arc Nova is number 3 now. Yeah, number 2 overall on Board Game Geek. There's a reason why people love Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I highly agree. And it also represents sort of legacy ratings as well. Yeah, the story's not original. If you don't like Pandemic, then the legacy version is not going to change your mind. I was also interested to see the difference between Sleeping Gods and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies and what the consensus is there. Sleeping Gods, it has a full crew of like 8 people that you have to manage, and Sleeping Gods 2 has less people that you have to manage. And I think I know Zach started playing through Sleeping Gods and he didn't quite get into it because he found that it was a lot to manage on his own when he was playing it solo. I know in both of these games, you're essentially going to a location, you're investigating that location, you're reading a story passage, you're getting keywords and checking that off and seeing if you unlock or can get these totems. Your whole goal is to go around and get different totems, and that seems to be a theme for a lot of legacy games, open world games. It's go around and get a lot of stuff, and if you do, you win. Explore the open world. What I really like about Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and what I'm excited about Season 2, is that Season 2 is very polarizing. I think it's either your favorite of the series or you hate it, or it's your least favorite. No one's Season 2 ever falls in the middle, which I think is interesting. And so by my count, it was Pandemic Legacy Season 1 that had the people who played it the most. However, it was Sleeping Gods 2 that got the vote. It won it in a tiebreaker and moved forward in 14-14 vote. And I'm very surprised. There was a lot of love for Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. Also the second most played as well, which I think is indicative of why I have that abacus rule. So Sleeping Gods falls out of contention. So if you're looking for Sleeping Gods, go for the second one, according to the people who have spoken. And if you're looking for Pandemic Legacy, go for Season 1, which I think has been the consensus anyway. But Pandemic Legacy, all the Pandemic Legacies fall to the wayside, and it is Sleeping Gods that is moving forward as you explore the land with this keyword system. Now moving on, we've got Oathsworn Into the Deepwood taking on Mice and Mystics. I think this one's going to be pretty cut and dry. Oathsworn, the thing that I like about it and I find is interesting. Well, people say that the story side of it is pretty huge. It's like 50% of the game you're going to be spending in this narrative world, and then you're going to do a big old boss battle. What I like about the Oathsworn system, having looked at it but not played it, is the refresh system, the refresh aspect of your cards, that your cards are timed out and they only come back to your hand after a certain amount of time. I think that's fun. I think that really plays into an interesting refresh ability. I think that's what Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac tried to do and failed miserably with their app Abomination. But yeah, Oathsworn sort of took the world by storm and is still sitting at number 61 on Board Game Geek with all these, I guess, spoilers for there's a bunch of rats. I mean, there's rats on the cover. You had to expect to be facing rats, I'm pretty sure it's going to beat Mice and Mystics. Mice and Mystics has been around for the longest. It's 2012, and I think it was fun in its day, but I think it shows its age. That's kind of the consensus that I've gathered here. They have a cheese system in their description where you can essentially just save up action points for another round. But Mice and Mystics is absolutely the more accessible option of the two. Mice and Mystics is something you could play with kids as well. I think I keep mentioning kids because that's the next deathmatch. That's what we're doing right now, is games that play best with children that make you not want to gouge your eyes out with a spoon or a copy of the Night Cage. But if you're looking for a good campaign to start with, to get your feet wet with the campaign elements, Mechs and Mystic is kind of put forward as that potential as well. And so while more people have completed Mechs and Mystics because they were saying that it was their starter campaign, Oathsworn got a ton of votes, and so it's Oathsworn that moves forward in a 21-14 vote. Next up, we have ISS Vanguard taking on Kingdom Death Monster. ISS Vanguard, my experience with that is watching Zach play. Zach did a solo series where he played through ISS Vanguard solo, and he doesn't quite like playing solo games that much, but he liked it because he was filming it, so he was like getting to share that experience with people, which was cool. And he did a great job with the videos. I thought they were so funny. He had so many cuts and edits, so much more than I ever incorporate, and they're on Board Game Geek as well, and on YouTube if you want to find them in the videos tab. There are a total of 5 episodes, I think. I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, he's finished his campaign. Oh, I don't want to add a video. No, I've already added those videos. ISS Vanguard is a space odyssey adventure. You are on the ISS Vanguard. You are going forward to seek out the mystery of the alien race that left a code in your DNA, and you have to recruit people on your ship and then send them down to the planet to die or to level up. Each person will have different stats, and they'll roll different dice. They'll have different specialties. And you'll need to bring them, because then you'll go down to the planet and go, oh, there's a big heavy door that I can't open. I should have brought somebody who can open doors. I guess we go up and we try it all again, which seems a little bit annoying. Kingdom Death Monster doesn't have a narrative really whatsoever in terms of my understanding of it, but it has this campaign system instead. You choose the amount of years that you want to live in this grim, dark world. Grim and dark world, I should say. And then you go through and try to survive. You start out the same way, and then you branch off and you have different encounters, and you sort of create the narrative of your town as you are going through. And another benefit of people were saying of Kingdom Death Monster, they're like, yeah, it's really light on the narrative, so you don't have to remember as much when you're in between sessions. And that's a valid point. Like, Zach and I are playing through Arydia right now, and I have like 4 other chapters that I have to edit and put up for early access on Patreon. I'm putting them out every Friday for the first Friday of every month of Zach and I playing Arydia. Nobody really watches them, but I don't care, because I'm having fun playing it, and I'm having fun filming it, and it's also fun to watch it and to look back on the things that like Zach and I got to experience. So I really like doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it, and I hope other people end up enjoying it and watching it as well. But I'm now away for the summer, right? And I don't know when Zach and I are going to be playing next, and if I didn't have those videos, I would have forgotten a lot of our campaign. Like, if I didn't rewatch our session, it'd be very easy to forget things in between the session, for sure. One of the main arguments here is that ISS Vanguard, and this is what Zach has said, he's like, yeah, I kind of want to return to it, but I don't want to like restart. A lot of the fun is in the exploration, and so it doesn't give that as much replayability. If you're looking for something which gives that replayability, Kingdom Death Monster just has that structure and gives a little bit more replayability. Because it's about the battle, the monsters will behave differently in battle, even if you are fighting the same monsters in battle. There's also a big conversation about the potential grindy nature of ISS Vanguard, of returning to the same planet just because, which is a possibility, and the idea of sinking hundreds and hundreds of hours into the gameplay. If you're just stretching things out and you're not actually adding 100, you can have 400 hours of campaign game, but if you only have 100 hours of like quality, then it's not a good campaign game, right? I would much rather have a streamlined campaign where it's all fun, fast, furious, boom, done, than have like side missions take up too much time just for the sake of having side missions. I have that complaint a little bit about Arydia as we're going through, which I'll talk a little bit more when we get to that side of the bracket. But I think that sort of weighted it against ISS Vanguard in here. And so it is Kingdom Death Monster that ends up moving forward in a 22-15 vote. Moving along, we've got Earth Under Siege Flashpoint taking on Scythe, The Rise of Fenris. This is on the other side of the bracket. Now, Earth Under Siege is a scenario-based campaign game that I am determined to not play as a campaign game, because I like it and I don't want to consider it a campaign, because then I'll never get through it. But if I just play it as a scenario game, which you absolutely can do, every single scenario in the campaign is absolutely playable. On its own, you just shuffle in some extra cards to your deck, you beef up your character a little bit before you start the game. That is 100% how I want to play the game. I don't want to worry about this emergent narrative, because I don't think the campaign elements or actually matter whatsoever, and I would much prefer this as a scenario game. But I really like Earth Under Siege. I have a review of Earth Under Siege. I think it's a pretty fun game. I think all the characters are really fun, except for the main captain, which I have to legally now say every time I talk about this game. Captain Hicks, you suck. Oh, he sucks. Just because the designer was like, he doesn't suck, I like Captain Hicks. No, he sucks. Oh, he friggin' sucks. But yeah, it's a great game. What I really like about this is there's a stealth element to it, and you have 6 actions, but you only get to refresh 4 of them, or 3 of them at the end of a turn. So you can have boosts of turns, but you don't want to. And I also think this really does a great job of, when you're not doing anything on your turns, you feel like you're building up to something, because the tokens that you get for waiting around are really useful. And you're waiting for that enemy to come around the corner on patrol to shoot them. And so you're waiting, you're getting the tokens, you're like prepping. It feels like a spy thing where you're like waiting for the right moment to strike. And I really like that about the game. Scythe Rise of Fenris, I've heard so much about, and I do have a copy of it. My neighbor and not friend Yuval also has a copy of it. I really like the co-op mode that it throws into here. You don't have to purchase Scythe Rise of Fenris to do the co-op mode. Kind of feels like you do, but really just print out the different goals that you might be doing, and then there's an easy automa system that you can incorporate if you wanted to try the new co-op mode in Scythe Rise of Fenris that doesn't use an automa deck, which I think is great. This is an 8 campaign deck scenario campaign, 8 scenario campaign, that's the one. So in Fenris, you're doing all the regular stuff that you would see in Scythe. I think it adds in maybe a couple new factions, which is interesting. I am looking forward to playing it. I think it'll be a nice way to refresh Scythe in my eyes, because I find I've cooled a little bit on Scythe. I wish Scythe didn't have such a giant box, because then I might bring it more places. I might have brought it here. I think people were asking and requesting it. I think between the two, I really like Earth Under Siege. Other people were saying that they like the campaign of Earth Under Siege because you're essentially choosing, do I do this mission or do I do this mission? I can't do both. And what are there aren't too many implications or negative consequences, but you're getting little bonuses either way. So going on a this or that choice is a fun way to do it. But Scythe Rise of Fenris, that ends up taking the vote 18 to 15. I would have voted for Earth Under Siege here, but it is Scythe that does move forward. And I'm a bit bummed to see Earth Under Siege be out of the competition, but I'm not that bummed because, again, I don't want to play it as a scenario game, as a campaign game. I just want to play it as a normal scenario game because I think I can enjoy it fully in that regard. So if you're looking for a full campaign, don't worry about it. Earth Under Siege, still a great game. So next we have Aeon Trespass Odyssey taking on Gloomhaven, also taking on Gloomhaven, also taking on, their expansions are different versions. I mean, come on, just Cephalofair. Where you at, Cephalofair? There we go. Also taking on Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion and taking on Frosthaven. So again, I wanted, because all of these are the same system, they all don't really have a narrative. Like, I've played through some of Gloomhaven. I haven't finished Gloomhaven. It is currently living at my former friend and now nemesis Josh's house, who is finally getting into board games in a real way. So I'm actually really glad that he has Gloomhaven. Maybe it was having Gloomhaven on the shelf that encouraged him to get more and more avid into board games. I'm very excited that he's into it, because then maybe we'll be able to play a campaign game down the line. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, again, has that same system, and so does Frosthaven. Everybody loves them so much that all 3 of them are in the top 25 games of all time on BGG, and that's pretty impressive, with Frosthaven coming out in 2022, Gloomhaven coming out in 2017, and Jaws of the Lion coming out in 2020. We're not dealing with too much recency here, or like fondness for the IP, but a lot of people just love the game. There's a reason why people have gone gaga for this game. I think Gloomhaven's fun. I think it's nice. I think its storage system sucks, and it prevents you from really tackling the game. And I think a lot of games now put a lot more care into you playing the game rather than just throwing everything in a big ball in a box and saying, figure it out, and hoping that it gets a mass fan appeal, which is kind of what I feel like Gloomhaven did. They're all taking on Aeon Trespass Odyssey, though, which is another one of these epic, well, they're all epic campaign games, but this one uses sort of 3 systems There's a card exploration system where you're kind of building a map out, and then you're going to sort of sail around on the Argo. You're going to have some book reading and some story decisions to read, and then you're going to teleport to a big battle where you hop inside of a Titan suit and you punch big monsters in the face. People were also trying to throw Gloomhaven Crimson Scales into the mix, which is a fan-made expansion for Gloomhaven. And so I threw it into the mix too. I was like, sure, let's get it in there. This is designed by Mutty, who runs the Level Up Gaming Retreat, and also is behind Rove, which I liked, and I could see the Gloomhaven DNA in that game for sure. I think the thing that kills Gloomhaven here in Frosthaven is the app, or is the video game. Because when people were like, oh yeah, it's a video game now. Oh, I like playing this video game so much more. Like, I don't want to play the board game anymore. I do want to play the video game. I don't want to play the board game. And then people were talking about their desire just to play the game and get them back to the table. They're like, listen, it's been so long since I played Frosthaven, but even though the rulebook is awful on Aeon Trespass Odyssey, once you get into it, they really enjoy it. So there was a lot of fan support for Aeon Trespass Odyssey, which usually gets burned in the first round of death matches. But this one, the people stood up and they said, listen, it's a really great, solid campaign that we love and enjoy. And they added in all of their extra votes, because you can have one extra vote for every death match. Each person gets one extra vote, so that you can really, like, if you're passionate about a game, it's your favorite game ever, you can give it an extra vote. And if it wins, then your extra vote is considered used. And so a bunch of people threw their extra votes down for Aeon Trespass Odyssey, and that is also the tiebreaker. So it's Aeon Trespass Odyssey that eliminates all of the Gloomhavens from the competition, which I was not expecting whatsoever. I wanted to see what was the better Gloomhaven. I think there were more votes for Frosthaven. Yeah, there were 12 votes for Frosthaven, 2 for regular Gloomhaven, 6 for Jaws of the Lion, or 7 for Jaws of the Lion, and then nothing of import for Crimson Scales. But yeah, it takes out all of them, and Aeon Trespass Odyssey moves on to the next round. So next up we have Arydia, which I'm currently playing through and I'm really enjoying, taking on Vagrantsong. Let's talk about Vagrantsong first, because I can talk about Arydia for a long time. Vagrantsong, you are on a train. Essentially, there's going to be a bunch of different scenarios where you have to make your way through a train yard as you go from train car to train car to train car and trying to get off this train. Somebody was saying I've played Vagrantsong several times, not completely sold on it. I think the scenarios have too many unique rules to run them smoothly. Got to remember too much or look things up. Also, I think I had the wrong playgroup for it. It's a somewhat swingy dice fest with another random layer in the bindle, and yet it's a lot of fun. It's this incredibly stylish, thematic experience, Vagrantsong. That's what people are saying about Vagrantsong. And there wasn't a lot of chatter about Arydia, but we've talked a lot about Arydia. There's so much is happening in Arydia that's solid and that I'm enjoying as a campaign experience. Zach and I are just getting to level 4. It's a big open world thing, so you can just go anywhere. If that's not your style, and it's not usually my style, I usually like a narrative, but this one, the narrative has kind of been building itself. I think Zach and I have gotten really lucky in terms of how things have come out, or maybe that's just really good game design. I don't know. I'm quite enjoying Arydia, but I'm not like overwhelmingly enamored by it. I was frothing at the mouth when Arydia first aired on Kickstarter. I was so excited about it. I actually won a copy because I certainly didn't have enough money to buy it back then. And so it's been really neat to explore this. I really like the combat system. The combat system keeps me coming around. And I haven't found the card system to be completely annoying, but I think it's because I also have Zach with me. So we're kind of sharing the load. I think I would be annoyed if I was doing it solo. I also like there's a little role-playing element. They encourage you to role-play each character, and Zach and I have really been having a lot of fun with that as well. So having the right person definitely makes a difference when you're going through something like this. And if I wasn't playing this with Zach, I absolutely wouldn't be having as much fun as I am. But it's Arydia that moves forward in a 21-13 vote, taking out Vagrantsong. Next up, we have Dragon Eclipse. This is the newest one, 2025. It just delivered to people in the category, taking on Arkham Horror, the card game, which every little expansion, it's a living card game, so every little expansion gives you a new mini 5 to 6 scenario campaign. So this one, obviously, you complete the campaign pretty frequently, and there is that rotation. I was excited about Arkham Horror, the card game, because I've heard really good things, and then I looked into this game Neon Hope, which if you saw my video on Wednesday about what I brought to Halifax for the summer, I have a prototype copy of that, and so I'm going to sort of hold my judgments on both of them until I play that prototype copy and see my thoughts on that. I'm really not enthusiastic about Arkham Horror LCG now, and that I've heard that it's very similar to the game that I thought wasn't good. And in fact, actually, I missed something. It's not against Arkham Horror. That's the next one. It's against Adventure Tactics that I just didn't open up on my tabs. It's Dragon Eclipse taking on Adventure Tactics. This is often billed as a great campaign game for children. People are enjoying Dragon Eclipse because you're getting to crack open booster packs. But when Zach got it, he said he had to create his own booster packs so that he could crack them open later because he didn't pay for it, pay for the additional booster pack thing. And I just think that's like so absurd that they would make you do all this sorting. It's like, don't look at these cards as you put them in envelopes and get ready to use them like 3 scenarios from now. That just seems really ridiculous to me. But Chance in the Discord said, took 13 play sessions, learned I just have to play every free second to be done. Pretty good, touch more challenging than I anticipated as I played the campaign with my wife, and everything is much harder. No, I'm not gonna say that. Touch more challenging than anticipated, but thought the storyline was incredible, and the Pokemon, Mistlings, were unique and great. And then Adventure Tactics sits in that sort of 10 scenario campaign pocket. Simple level progression, simple leveling up your characters, doesn't stick around for too long as well. But people are excited about the new hotness, so it's Dragon Eclipse that does move forward in a 19 to 15 vote. Now we're on to Arkham Horror, which is taking on Hoplomachus Victorum. Hoplomachus Victorum is a game by Chip Theory Games, so you know it's going to have those classic chips, as you are a Lannister, making your gladiators battle each other to the death. Not a lot of people talked about Hoplomachus Victorum. It's another one of those solo-only campaigns, and so it fits into a very sort of niche genre. But hey, if you're playing a campaign game, the best way to get that session done is doing it solo, because you don't have to worry about organizing people's schedules. It is Arkham Horror, though, that moves forward. People are liking the direction of the expansions, that they're coming out in expansion boxes and not just like these stupid packs. And so you can just get like a game, and then get an expansion for the game, and another expansion for the game. And I like that model a lot more as well. And so it's Arkham Horror that moves forward in a 15 to 12 vote. Not too much more as we go through. We've only been recording for over an hour. A little bit less on the timestamps down below. Next up, we have the Isofarian Guard taking on Tainted Grail, while also taking on Tainted Grail 2, Kings of Ruin, which I think everybody has agreed. Tainted Grail didn't get a single vote in this deathmatch. Everybody agreed to vote for Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin. They have changed the grind in a significant way to make it less annoying, for sure, which is great. But Isofarian Guard has a lot of value baked into the system. It's a bag building style of game. However, the criticism of this was that it ends up feeling a little bit samey, a little bit repetitive in the gameplay loops, which the first Tainted Grail certainly felt as well. Pure was saying a vote for Isofarian Guard is a vote for physical exercise because the box is literally so unwieldy, and they claim it fits in a calyx and it doesn't. And so there was a lot of love for Tainted Grail and the new version of it and how it explores. Like I was really drawn into the theme and the vibe of Tainted Grail. I just really didn't like the first one when I played through, and I stopped, and I had no desire to go back into the grind. And then I gave it to Zach and Colin, and they have now stopped, and they don't have any desire to go back into the grind as well. And so for something like that, I'm not likely to return to the second version, even if it improves upon it a great deal, when there are all these other games to explore. It's like, if you don't like Pandemic, you're not going to like Pandemic Legacy, right? If I really bounced off pretty hard on Tainted Grail, I don't want to get Tainted Grail 2 just to like not be excited about it in the hopes that it fixes all my problems, when I could just play another game that I'm actively excited for. And so it's Isofarian Guard that moves forward. I would be more excited to play Isofarian Guard for sure. And that moves forward 13 to 12 votes. Now this is an interesting one. We have DorfRomantik taking on Stuffed Fables. These two got drawn again randomly in this. I didn't even know DorfRomantik was a campaign game, but you go over a series of campaigns, again a smaller one. And Stuffed Fables, again in the lighter weight category as well, 2.46 and 1.64. You're exploring, you're getting points over a campaign, and then you're unlocking new tiles in DorfRomantik to give you more options to create a beautiful landscape that you're working to build. In Stuffed Fables, you take on the roles of stuffed creatures trying to save your human. You're going to be drawing dice from a bag, which will determine the actions that are available to everyone, and also determine when everybody else attacks them. One thing about Stuffed Fables, Hillary said, I tried to get my whole family to play Stuffed Fables a while back. I underestimated the creepiness and the complexity. I wanted to circle back and finish it with my kid now that he's older. And then when we asked, what age did you try it initially? Hillary responded, or 6. 6 for her kid. And so DorfRomantik, I think we have people who want more meat in a campaign game. This feels like unlockable stuff happens here in DorfRomantik, not really campaign, too much campaigning happening. So it's Stuffed Fables that moves forward in a 15 to 12 vote. And then finally we have Clank taking on Bounce Off. Now, did you know that Bounce Off has a campaign mode? It's called Life. Every time you get together with Bounce Off, you're not playing characters, you're playing yourself, and you grow. And you learn, and you explore, and you develop, and you deepen. Bounce Off is better than any therapy session, and certainly cheaper as well. Take it from me. Whenever you're bouncing balls, you're not just creating patterns, you're creating memories. It's a game that can grow with you. It's a game that can grow on you. It's a game that can grow out from you. I have a copy of Bounce Off growing from my spine right now. Why do you think I need people to buy this? It's literally my spinal fluid and my hardened spine that I'm shedding like a snake. And I won't tell you what the blue and yellow ones are made from. It's a beautiful campaign. It will send you to new heights. And I think it's about time, because we forgot last time. We got to check in with what people say. Claypole says, this is the best campaign game. By which I mean my friends campaign for me to get kicked out of the group whenever I mention it, Claypole. Come on. How dare you? You can't pull the rug out from me like that. £1 and a bargain for such a simple, fun dexterity game. Makes us laugh, as all dexterity games do. A key component to a campaign is the laughter and the memories that you have along the way. Oh, Maloney, or maybe Melanie, probably Melanie. Well, we're going to go with the first one. Maloney, fantastic. What else do people have to say? Honest people like Hextra. I've never known Hextra, to be honest, so this 10 surprises me, but I'm interested to read what he has to say. I once saw a homeless man keeping himself occupied with the game. He told me his desire for food, drink, and love had been forever satiated thanks to the gameplay mechanics and component quality. I asked him if he'd include his thoughts and rating on the game via his BGG profile, and he said his desire for otherworldly possessions, like the internet, has also been quashed. So this 10 is for you, Eye Patch Earl. Why? Here's the thing. Be more like Eye Patch Earl, okay? Can you just imagine the journeys that man has been on? Can you imagine the journeys that Bounce Off will send you on? You can't until you try it. Go out and buy a copy of Bounce Off today. I need to find one in Nova Scotia. I really need to find one in Nova Scotia. Oh, why didn't I bring one to Nova Scotia? Oh, this is horrible. And did you just see that journey I went on? The little mini journey that happened? Tell me a campaign that can get you to feel the whole gamut of life's emotions in one game. You can't, other than Bounce Off. Dex Douglas gave it a 3. Dex Douglas. Oh, Dex Douglas. I have another nemesis. Another nemesis like our Consoni. Dex Douglas. Maybe try to recreate as a variant to the games I already own. Hop, hop, hooray, or bounce it in. Okay, I'm sorry. You're playing Bounce It In? You're playing Bounce It In? No, it's Bounce Off. Bounce it off. Don't bounce it in, bounce it off. It's a very simple concept. You don't piss me in, you piss me off. You get it? Better than epic fail games, just enjoying epic throw fails. Well, yeah, tax. That's because you suck. Oh, Vyashu, I'm so sorry we didn't go back to Bounce Off in the April Deathmatch video, the May, I don't know where we are. We're in June right now. With the April Deathmatch video, we missed it. It was travel games, but my mind was elsewhere. It must have been traveling. But I have to say that Vyashu knows that the glory of Bounce Off can only keep increasing. How could it not go up to a 9? It was foretold. Oh, Vyashu, I imagine if you look into your heart and you decide to give Bounce Off the truest rating in your heart, it might even go up. Who knows? I don't know. I'll look later. Oh, Vakuto. Vakuto. I feel like that's going down. Bounce Off's rank, 16 to 36. Those weren't words. No, give me that. Overview. Where's the overview? No, give me the stats. Give me the stats. Let me see the historical rank. I need to see if it's going up or down. from January. I need to see if I'm doing more harm than good. I need you to load. Here it was, January 1593. Oh, come on. It's gone down 1,000. Well, that's because there's been 1,000 games that have been published. That makes sense. That makes sense. But, you know, in February, it was at 16,814. And now it's at least gone up a little. I don't know why there are these dips. There seem to be these dips, these very clear dips every time I might post a deathmatch video. We're gonna ignore that. We're gonna hope that this was the uptick. Look, maybe this was when I posted the deathmatch video. Come on, we can make this graph amazing, people. If we just work together, all of us. There are dozens of us. Dozens! Why did it get disqualified this time? Oh yeah, there needs to be a fixed endpoint in the campaign game for it to count. So the powers that be have unfortunately disqualified Bounce Off from the competition. But in order to replace it, we have brought forward another game that's on my shelf of shame that I hope proceeds in the deathmatch, because then I'll get excited about playing it. We have Tanares, Arena of the Contest Tanares Adventures. What I like about this is you are always controlling 4 characters. You can kind of swap their roles. It's like a this or that situation of a fighter or a blighter. I think that's the correct one. Of a dentist or a crentist. Either of them. That was the first Office episode I ever saw. And boy, oh boy, was it a great one to start with. So that's what's interesting about Tanares. And then Clank. Clank, I have heard, is really good, but it also is really long narratively. That's what I've heard, that there's tons of narrative text. And so if you're not into the humor of it, and you're not into the jokes, and you're not into reading those story passages, I think you're going to like it less. I've heard really great things about Clank, and it's rated really highly, but that's something to consider going into it. And so both of these games actually don't get a lot of love, and maybe people were hoping for other games to come in with the Bounce Off replacement. So they're both burned for eternity and will be replaced with new games down the line. But we're going to ramp things up right now, and we're going to go back to the front of the bracket. We have only one more to talk about. We have Fate Forge, Chronicles of Khan, taking on Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth. I heard Earthworm Earl, or what was his name? Earl, you know Earl. Bounce Off Earl. I forget his name. Earl said that the app makes this thing so smooth to run. It manages all the narrative beats, choose your own adventure choices, keeps track of what you have done or have not done, manages enemy reactions, suspect it even changes the scenario setups based on previous wins or losses. A few things that Earl really likes about it: each map tile is a zone. You move between zones as you go through these different map tiles. And that's the equivalent of a single space in any other game. It makes it so the entire play area may only be 5 to 6 moves long or wide, but in the way Too Many Bones makes you squeeze every last bit of tactical movement and damage mitigation from that 4x4 grid. That's what's going on here. No needing 5 moves to get around a corner to a hallway. No fiddly line of sight issues. Either you're in a zone with a bad guy or you're not. Finish whatever objectives you have to do, win the game. Definitely some love being thrown for Fate Forge, but not enough love because it is Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth that moves forward in a pretty dominant 15-7 vote. But the people who played Fate Forge seem to like it a lot. Next up, we have Eila versus and Something Shiny taking on Middara. I kind of expected Middara to win here, but there's a lot of people who love Eila and Something Shiny. The bunnies are cute. The game it has a nice flow to it, and it rewards you doing the good thing, not the efficient thing. So it's all about making like the right choices for Eila. And so Eila and Something Shiny actually moves forward and defeats Middara in an 18-14 vote. Next up, we have Tidal Blades 2 taking on Sleeping Gods 2. It's the battle of the sequels. Mulan 2 taking on Star Wars Episode 8. Sucro Supreme is saying, Tidal Blades, it's like Gloomhaven without the parts I don't like, and slightly more decision space at the same time, and more variety of missions. And that's enough to sway the masses, and it's Tidal Blades 2 to move forward in a 23-16 vote. Sleeping Gods 2 gets eliminated from the competition, and that makes sense if there's a little bit more gameplay happening in Tidal Blades and a little less narrative text reading. You want to find the balance for that, right? And speaking of balance, we have Oathsworn taking on Kingdom Death Monster. From the way it's been pitched, I actually would lean toward Kingdom Death Monster here, personally. I know Oathsworn is supposed to have an amazing storyline and like really cool minis. Well, the minis are pretty cool. You can see them there, even though they don't come painted. That's the benefit of Arydia, is that you can pull them out of the box and they come pre-painted, and you don't have to worry about painting them. So that's kind of cool. But people also hate the idea of a $4,000 buy-in for buying Kingdom Death Monster, because no game is worth that amount of money, and I think They're absolutely correct. So even though it was pretty close, I think the storyline worked against Kingdom of Death Monster here, and it's Oathsworn that moves forward in a 24-20 vote. Next up, we have Scythe, the Rise of Fenris, taking on Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I imagine Aeon Trespass Odyssey is going to win here, just again from the scope of it versus the 8-scenario campaign. And that is what happens, but it is a close one. Aeon Trespass Odyssey moves forward in 15-14 vote. Scythe Rise of Fenris very close to moving on, but it doesn't take the match, unfortunately for it. Then we have Arydia, the Paths We Dare Tread, taking on Dragon Eclipse. Did I remember to upload chapter 3 here? I don't think I did. I don't think I've been uploading any of them here, in fact. Oh, chapter 1. I should upload chapter 2 and 3. I've been really enjoying Arydia, and Arydia dropping in 2025 and Dragon Eclipse dropping in 2025. More people have completed Arydia than Dragon Eclipse, and there's so much to do in Arydia that should kind of tell you the way it can bring people back to the table and encourages them to keep on playing over other options. I think that's such a relevant statistic. And so it's Arydia that moves forward in, I don't know what, I know it's a big number though, in a 21-11 vote. Next up we should have Arkham Horror and Isofarian Guard, but I screwed it up in the order. So we're going over to Stuff Fables, which is taking on a bunch of new campaign games to replace the burn of Clank Legacy and Arydia the Contest. Taking on something else that once I get this internet working better, I'll tell you about. So next up we have Stuff Fables, which is taking on Chronicles of Drunagor, which also taking on Earthborn Rangers, also taking on the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era, and also taking on the Seventh Citadel. These were all the write-in options for Best Campaign Game for the burned bracket. And so they were all a bunch of write-ins. And let's go through them briefly. Chronicles of Drunagor, the thing that I like about this one is a little campaign game where you have the doors that then tell you what the setup is. Also, the complaint about that is that people want to just set up the whole scenario and not be hindered by setting up a bunch of stuff as things go along, but then you don't get spoiled on what's happening. You have a surprise. You don't know what's hiding behind the door, which can lead to a little bit of a sense of excitement in your games. Earthborn Rangers, people weren't talking about as much, but it's got this sort of like CCG feel. People described it as this co-op as you're playing your cards in front of you and tapping things and interacting with different points of interest. Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era is a 3-session campaign. As you build your character over the course of time, you will you'll move on, as this zooms in, this little map up here, this high rock map. Oh, boom, look at that. You'll move across the map investigating different things. You'll read certain points of interest, and then you will also fight different orientations of baddies on usually this structure of a map, but what I really like is the dungeon delve aspect of it, where you're flipping over cards and that tells you what is on the other side as you go further and further in the dungeon and finding maybe monsters that you can't deal with so that you run away before they notice you. Very Skyrim. And then finally we have the Seventh Citadel, which we don't need to talk about. Well, no, I really dislike the Seventh Continent. Sean in the Discord has been a huge supporter of Seventh Citadel, who also hated Seventh Continent, and so says that it fixes a lot of the stuff that I hated about Seventh Continent and keeps that exploration, that card exploration. If you're thinking about something seventh something, you should absolutely go for Seventh Citadel over Seventh Continent. I can guarantee you that. I'm not personally interested in Seventh Citadel because of my really poor experience with Seventh Continent, but I can see that it does fix things, and it really eliminates that grind, and that's a very important aspect as well. And so out of all of these, we have 5 options. It's actually Earthborn Rangers that gets the nod here. Earthborn Rangers sort of took one of the conventions by storm. It was sold out. Everybody was talking about it for a little bit, and it gets 15 votes. Elder Scrolls, I expected Elder Scrolls to move on here because I know people in the Discord love Elder Scrolls, but it's not to be. Elder Scrolls gets 11 votes. Stuff Fables grabbed 8 votes in third, but that's eliminated. Drunagor also grabbed 8 votes, and the Seventh Citadel placed last, so it's knocked out of the competition as well. So moving on, we're moving back over to Arkham Horror versus the Isofarian Guard. Ooh, this is a close one. I'm looking back, it's tied, and it'll be down to the extra votes looking back on it. but Arkham Horror managed to get a lot of extra votes. I'm much more interested in Isofarian Guard. If I had a choice here, I like the bag building concept, but I think the shortness of the campaigns, that they don't last for too long for Arkham Horror, interests people, and people had complaints about that repetitive loop. So Isofarian Guard is eliminated from the competition. We're moving back over to this side of the bracket. We have Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth taking on Eila and Something Shiny. You've saved my life! I think Eila's really neat, that it is just a one-player game, but it is often played with families. I think that's really cool, a really cool aspect of it. Lord of the Rings, again, people really like that app-driven adventure, some of the favorites, or it's some people's favorite in the Discord as well. There were some people who were trying to burn Eila, but it's not to be. We had more praise for Eila, saying, I was excited to play each chapter of Eila because each plays differently, never stale. Each introduces a new landscape and a different puzzle to solve. There's a maze, there's a quiz on observation and recall, and an attrition fight, among other challenges, all while managing resources, which are balanced differently each chapter. And so lots of passion behind Eila versus and Something Shiny, and so it's Eila and Something Shiny that takes the vote in a 16 to 14 vote. Lord of the Rings is ejected from the competition. Now over on to Tidal Blades 2, taking on Oathsworn into the Deepwood. I imagine that Oathsworn is going to win here. People were saying that they were loving Oathsworn. Both the city wilderness phase and the boss battling phase are things that people have been enjoying. And so balancing both of those two things, really hitting the narrative aspect on the head, which is what makes Oathsworn move forward in a 16 to 10 vote. Tidal Blades getting eliminated from the competition. It may have been the best game of 2024, but it is not the best campaign game. Moving on over to the other side, we have Aeon Trespass Odyssey taking on Arydia, The Paths We Dare Tread. Now, I know Aeon Trespass Odyssey has its fans in the Discord, but it's not enough. The love for Arydia is really strong. It's 21 to 9 that it defeats Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Arydia just keeps on picking up steam and is moving forward very strong, and I'm excited about that because I'm playing Arydia, and so I know that I'm already playing some of the best, making it into the semifinals of best campaign games ever. And then on the other side of the bracket, now we have Arkham Horror, the card game, taking on Earthborn Rangers, the late addition into this lineup. And I think this is an interesting lineup because they're essentially both two LCGs, CCGs, that same similar flow of card play and managing your cards and exploring things through cards. Are both present in these two games. I have never been interested in Arkham, and some other people have been reflecting this idea as well, because I don't want to get addicted to it. It feels like it has really pushed that idea of more packs and more expansions, more campaigns. But I think it might not be that. I think my impression of that might have been false, that it gives the sensation of needing to get everything. I don't know. There isn't really an overarching story in Earthborn Rangers. That's what I was interested as well. You just kind of run around. You have a thread of a story and you just explore the world and see what happens. But people really like the idea of, you pick a character with Arkham Horror, you do 5 to 6 scenarios, you either save the world or fail miserably. And it's that pushes Arkham Horror forward. It beats Earthborn Rangers, knocks it out of the competition, and moves forward in a 21 to 14 vote. So we have our semifinals. We're here with Eila and Something Shiny, Oathsworn, Arydia, The Paths We Dare Tread, and Arkham Horror, the card game. Oathsworn into the Deep Woods. Sorry about that. Sorry, I didn't say the accurate subtitle for Oathsworn. But in our first matchup, we have Eila and Something Shiny taking on Oathsworn into the Deepwood. Sort of the polar opposites of games here. And whoa, this one is tied. I look back and it's tied. People in the Discords were saying both games have cute creatures, so my vote goes to whoever wants it the most. To which Dwayneski, or Duaneski, if you nasty, said, I want your vote. Give it to me. And suddenly, we have a third entry into the competition. Do you care about campaign games, or will you vote for Duaneski? Duansky, Dunokski. That's what the people had to contend with. They voted for Eila, they voted for Oathsworn, they voted for the murder of Dwayneski. Because, of course, we've been also playing big games of Mafia or Werewolf in text-based form in our Discord as well, which has been pretty fun. People have gotten really into that. And so those votes have have churned over into it, but luckily Duaneski is safe. And it was a tie, and so the tiebreaker ended up going towards Eila and Something Shiny because more people had completed a full campaign of Eila and Something Shiny over Oathsworn, and so it's Eila and Something Shiny that moves forward in a 16-14 vote. Moving over to the other side of the bracket, we have Arydia, The Path We Dare Tread, taking on Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm rooting for Arydia, obviously, because that's the one that I'm playing, and that's the one that I'm enjoying, and I really don't like LCGs. I have a hatred against them, or a fear of them. Vaultboy was saying Arydia is innovative in how it handles the campaign, but the campaign itself probably sits in the middle of this list. Arkham Horror LCG, on the other hand, is one of the strongest candidates for its campaigns. They're not just good mechanically, they're strong narratively. A really good story idea being put forward there from Vaultboy. And so it is close. A lot of people were still voting for the murder of Duaneski. And so we have a lower vote count, so it comes down to 14-10 for one of these two games. Actually, 13-10 for one of these two games. And it is Arkham Horror that is eliminated from the competition. And so it is Arydia that moves forward in a 13-10 vote. And so we have our final matchup. We have Eila and Something Shiny taking on Arydia, taking on Duaneski. Because really, when you think about it, you could be playing a game, planning and playing a huge campaign. Sure, that takes a lot of time. But you know what else takes a lot of time? Meticulously plotting the murder of a friend. Meticulously researching through all of his internet posts, doxing him in a friendly way, if you will, until it turns not so friendly, until it becomes an obsession, until you realize that you have every single bit of information that you could ever need and nobody could ever trace it back to you. And in fact, if you all do it as a community, if you all do it as a town, then who's really going to be to blame? Who's going to be left into the clutches of the police? Nobody. They can't arrest everybody, right? We saw that with January 6th. And poor Duaneski ended up pleading for his life. He turned to the masses and said, please, this mafia game, this game of werewolf has gotten out of hand. How has it gone into the deathmatch? Why is everybody piling on for my murder? But the campaign was set. There is no greater thrill. Sure, you can level up your character, but maybe you level up your stats in real life. You level up your perception. Maybe you level up your stealth check. Maybe you level up your strength so you can put somebody into a bag and drag them out into the middle of the woods and duct tape them to a tree, then pull the bag off their head, making them look at the surrounding people who are all holding candles, a solemn vigil for what's about to pass. He says, no, I thought we were friends. And you say, that we're all mafia here. He's like, wait, wouldn't that change the balance of the game? Shouldn't there only be like 2 or 3 mafia? And they say, yes, but there's a murder every day in the town, and that's what we're doing. We think you're up to no good, Duaneski. And he says, I'm a town. I'm a good boy. I'm a good little boy. And he raises his shirt and he shows you his whole chest tattoo that says, I'm a good little boy. But you notice that good has been overlaid on what used to be naughty. And so you realize, oh, he was a naughty boy. And then you kill him. You kill him and you sleep really well at night, murdering a valuable member of our community. You know that the Room and Board community didn't make one of these two games the winner of this deathmatch. You know this. You know that Duaneski was always going to be murdered. You know that I would be left, in the most ironic of terms, call up Alanis Morissette. In a campaign to find the greatest campaign game, you know that I am left with no campaign game. You know that I am left with just murder. When the rule was for the person or the people who finished the campaign game the most were to get some extra votes, you know that I will never finish this video. You know that this video is probably going to being admissible in a court of law when poor Doobie Doobie Dooski's body floats up from the ground where they stashed him. I know we said we brought him out to a forest, but after the forest, after he died of hypothermia, then they tied cinder blocks to his feet and threw him in the river. And to you, the jury, I would like to say that don't blame the messenger. Blame the heartless folk who took this too far. Blame the heartless folk who decided that neither of these games would be crowned as the best campaign game, and that this campaign would end like all of your board game campaigns, with you wanting more, with you unsatisfied, and with you looking to the next video. That's it. That's the end. Go away. Just kidding! Of course we have a runner-up. Yes, Duaneski is completely murdered. and we'd like to say sorry to his family. But I did make sure to have a runner-up. We have a tie for second place. They made it 10-10. It was a 10-10 tie for second place, with everybody else voting to murder Don Juan Esqui. However, in the event of a tie, there was one lone abacus vote. And although people have finished full campaigns of Arydia since it has dropped, which I think is incredibly impressive, there are more people who have made their way through Island Something Shiny. Island Something Shiny is able to be gotten to the table. It is the campaign that people will finish. Maybe it's because they play it with their children. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's because it's so cute. It doesn't matter. The official runner-up and winner, if you were to declare a winner of the deathmatch, would be Island Something Shiny, but unfortunately, murder has corrupted us all. Arydia falls into second place, into obscurity, and Eila and Something Shiny is the official runner-up for this deathmatch. Thanks very much for watching. That was it. If you want to participate in the votes and making me incredibly sad when I have to do these videos and announce to people's families that they've been murdered by a mob of unruly heathens, well, you can sign up for the Room and Board Patreon and get involved in the daily votes. Or you can just wait until these videos come out, where inevitably there will be some nonsense. If you are out there and you can crack down on the nonsense and you can restore honor to the voting process, well, hey, I welcome you to pay me a couple bucks a month and sign up for Patreon. Next month, I am excited about, it's ongoing right now. It is the best baby game for adults, the game that you can play with children and still enjoy, and actively enjoy, and not want to gouge your eyes out. That won't make you hate games, but in fact will instill and invigorate your love for games, and also invigorate the love for your children. Your children loving games, not you for your children. That's a you thing. You got to figure that out on your own. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but I do have many bodies to bury. So, and many letters and uncomfortable conversations to be having. But I do it for you. I do it for you.